Let's go.
So nice to meet you, Senator Smallwood Cuevas, Lola Smallwood Cuevas. My name is Pamela Anchang from the Immigrant Magazine, and it's so wonderful for you to be at this important convening. So I want to seize the opportunity to ask you a few questions. So there's a lot going on, as you mentioned, the shutdown. Immigrant communities are really facing really hard times. What can you say to our immigrant community in terms of building that confidence to be able to get resources, and what resources do we have in place to help immigrants, especially first-generation immigrants and our undocumented communities?
Absolutely. Well, first, you are California. You are Californians. You belong with us. You are here every day working hard. I see so many hard-working Jamaican, Belizean, Latino immigrants in my district, the 28th South LA district, Culver City, Mar Vista, downtown. So first, you are Californians, and your work helps our state meet the needs that we have to be now the fourth largest economy in the world. And so what we're doing, our legislature and our governor supported an investment of $50 million to provide legal assistance, universal representation for our particularly undocumented folks who are having interactions with ICE, who may think they may have interactions with ICE, to understand what their rights are and to have that protection that they need. Go to your local legal aid office. The resources are on the ground. There's also organizations like Sherla here in LA County that has a rapid response network that we are also supporting, where folks are tracking the whereabouts of ICE and helping to get that information out to communities so they know how to protect themselves. We also worked very hard this year to pass policy, and it's insane that we have to do this, but we had to pass policy to require that law enforcement remove masks, that they identify themselves when engaging with Californians, and we are working very closely with our state, why am I forgetting this? Highway Patrol, our state highway patrol, our obviously our National Guard. We're continuing to work with them to make sure that the state is doing all that it can to assist local authorities, local law enforcement in treating and respecting the rights of our constituents and residents. You know, we see these are abhorrent acts of violence. They are what I define as racial terror. We thought that through the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements to really look at racial profiling and to say we reject racial profiling, we respect the civil rights of our citizens. We thought we had already overcome a level of understanding in terms of our values in California, but we have a federal government that disrespects our values, that is disrespecting our constituents and our residents, and we have to ensure that they are protected. I want to say we've invested in programs such as CalFresh. We urge you quickly, if you have not signed up for Medi Cal, to do so right away in the next coming weeks. It's critically important for you to do that. We are not going to be dropping immigrant and undocumented people from our healthcare rolls, so it's important that you enroll as quickly as possible so that you are not part of any effort to freeze those programs. The big ugly budget has passed in Washington, and that is creating a $750 million hole in our county healthcare budget, which the state is going to have to address. And we don't want to see folks not able to enroll in healthcare. We don't want to have to charge folks, ridiculous premiums to get access to Medi Cal. That means enroll now, and we have to work together to make sure that we have the resources in this state that protects all of us. These are unprecedented times. I don't think that word even captures what we're in. But that's why being here today is really important, because it is our community-based organizations, our frontline organizations that have information, that are connected to the state, and when we need to act, we have. We've taken emergency action. We've passed necessary resources to get to the ground to address some of the atrocities that we see happening in terms of the civil rights violations of our immigrant community, and we will continue to act that way. But the channel of communication has to be robust. But we're very, very grateful for our network of community-based organizations. We're very grateful for their ability to stand in that breach and to make sure that folks have the information and can access the resources that they need. Does more need to be done? Absolutely. Will there be more to come out of this administration? Absolutely. So it's important for us to take this moment that we're in very seriously. It's not a time to point fingers about what isn't being done, because right now it's all coming down on us at once, and so we've got to be in real time of working together to make sure that we don't do what this administration wants us to do. And that means we have to protect all of our people in our community.
Yeah, Senator, I just want to point out that, for the first time, immigrants, even green card holders, everyone is feeling the pinch and the pain, and we're even scared to come out and do our jobs. But in that demographics, you look at it, we're like 46.1 million first generation immigrants in this country that contribute $1.6 trillion to the economy. But this country is seeming to fail to recognize that contribution, that without immigrants, there's no America. And in that demographic, we have the percentage of people that are first gen who speak limited English and yet continue to contribute. What policies your office or is putting in place to help those of us that are the front lines that are doing the work in the media space, not just us, the CBOs and us and the media, to be able to get to these communities to make sure that they are not left out, because some of them would depend sometimes on their children, hoping for translators, but then it's so limiting. What do you have any message you can give to these communities in terms of funding resources to try to get to them?
Well, I think there are resources, as I mentioned, that are going to the immediate needs of legal services and protections. I think there are always resources that are through a number of programs to support the communications piece. We had a bill, and the governor invested, I think there's tens of millions of dollars in public television, radio, and journalism, because we know part of the attack on our democracy is invalidating the First Amendment. It's censoring what is happening and what news is getting out, and basically shaking down media outlets so that we aren't getting all of the information that our citizens need to make the decisions to govern their lives. I think the state of California made an investment in journalism and supporting media outlets through the Publishers Association and through some of the nonprofit journalism outlets. So I think that effort is happening. Do we need to do more in ethnic media? Absolutely. I'm happy to say a lot of the issues that we're working through now, especially our Yes on 50, we want to make sure that our communities understand that voting yes for Proposition 50 is the way that we ensure that our immigrant communities are protected, because we've got to make sure we get one of these levels of government back in the hands of the people. And so there are investments in radio, in ads, in print media, in all of our communities in a number of different languages to ensure that the immigrant community understands this. And it doesn't matter if you can't vote. My experience in LA County, some of the most patriotic, some of the most committed door knockers are undocumented folks. They may not vote, but they know how to move the vote because they know how to talk to one another about what's important and to explain policies and to move that vote. And so I'm glad to see that we are investing in that. I think we're also investing in making sure that there is, for those immigrants who are eligible to vote, that there is, we're dealing with voter intimidation. We're dealing with voter suppression issues. We're building a team of observers to address some of the ways that we know this administration will use ICE and other tools to violate our voting rights. So we're preparing for that as well. So I think that we, at the state of California, it might not be perfect, and sometimes perfect is the enemy of good, right? And we've got to do what's right. We've got to do what's good by our folks, and with whatever resources we have to be able to make that happen. I'm hopeful that we learn from these experiences. I'm a believer that things happen in a way that teaches us lessons, and that we have a California that is more committing to building our citizenship, advocating for a pathway of citizenship, advocating for ways for our immigrant communities to engage in our government, and building the solidarity between our immigrant communities and our California voting community, so that we have an ironclad force against any attack on democracy in the future. So, I think we are taking those steps in an emergency situation, but I'm hopeful that we're laying some groundwork for what will be part of how California will do this business moving forward. At least that's my hope, and I have to have that because I represent one of the most diverse districts, and if not the most diverse district in California, in terms of immigrant workers, undocumented workers, Black working families, LGBTQ, Jewish families. This is one of the richest diverse city in the state, and so we've got to know that that's our strength, that's our superpower.
Absolutely.
That's what makes our state stand out among the rest. So, I appreciate, the questions and concerns. I think we need to ensure that we're including the voices of all immigrant communities who are impacted by ICE. It is, an API community, Black immigrant community, Latino immigrant community, all are here in our city. Some of the largest populations outside of their countries, like Korea and Belize, are here in Los Angeles, and so we want to make sure that, again, our neighbors, our workforce is protected.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very useful information.
Appreciate it. Thank you.